Of course, we all look for those things that will be our protection. We would like to find a satisfactory protection from our own moods, from our troubled emotions, from our changing sense of our self-confidence and self-worth. We need to protect ourselves from our impulsive, irrational, thoughtless behavior. Yes, and surely we all look for protection from people who make life difficult for us, people who exert power over us, people who frighten us. We look for protection from people who have shown that they can't be trusted. Protection from ourselves, protection from other people, but beyond that we look for protection from the hazards. All of that. We need protection. We know that. Protection is often seen as protection from something. Something that we've identified as a threat, as a risk, as a hazard, a danger. But at times protection comes too late. We didn't see the hazard, didn't recognize the risk, thought we were immune, thought we would not be affected. Protection also therefore needs to be protection for something. We need to have protections in place that protect us for the future. And we might realize that protection and prevention, therefore, are close sisters. To be adequately protected, we need to build positive preventions, positive buffers, positive education, positive beliefs about our capacities to keep our protections in place. If you don't believe in your protections, then they all start to frazzle and fall apart. More than that, protection also involves building up resources and experiences and enrichments that on first up don't seem to have any direct relation to the business of protection, protecting our health. But on second thoughts, we see that by having those good experiences in place, they do protect our health, our emotional well-being, and so on. So we need a wider learning, a wider emotional strength in place, and they have a major effect on our sense of being a part of a strong and safe environment. Protection and the wide concerns of protection have long been tangled up in the roots of our religion. Religion has been constantly trying to cope with the different coats of anxiety that we put on. Does this anxiety coat make us search more insistently for protection? Or does this anxiety coat bring home to us that no protection is simple and no protection ultimately will be possible? So we're all exposed to these dangers along the way. As it were, the temporary dangers, the transitory dangers, and the ultimate dangers. Often a primary protection concerns protection from our anxieties. So many people, many people give up on religion, give up on Christianity, because it failed them. From their earliest breath, they were held in arms that were committed to protect them from harm and danger, protect them from environments that could kill them, protect them from the dangers and risks of growing up. It soon became clear they would have to look after themselves, but they would find that they couldn't look after themselves. It became clear that other people, even those who said they loved them, might let them down. The world which looks so glorious, can be a world of risks and unpredictable hazards. But across thousands of years, people had been encouraged to believe that God and religion would protect them. But God and religion failed them, failed to protect them. And just as when people have failed us, we get angry and irritable, so when God failed us, we said all that God talk is nonsense. So we walked away from it. It was no protection. We'll seek our protections elsewhere. So we built huge walls to protect us from the enemies. We trained massive armies to protect us. We spent vast amounts of money on our protection from all sorts of enemies out there, from the enemies of our fellow human beings, enemies that we carry around with us as our emotional baggage, enemies of our mistakes and misjudgments. This last week, like every day, these last weeks, I was in a long line of single driver traffic in the early morning, all on their way to work. If I turn on the radio, I hear the traffic report, giving me information that I don't need, raising anxiety levels of thousands of people across the city about what's happening here, there, over there, somewhere, not happening here. I need protection, I think. I need protection from all these so-called reports on traffic, on stock exchange, on interest rates, on the weather, on the last election polls, all these reports, and they come flooding in with various levels of intensity of music and drums beating and people arguing back and forth. All of that I can do without, because the more I drive listening to it, the more tense I become. I could switch it off, but I fear I might miss something. And so my brain becomes increasingly jammed with useless information, fed by the intensity of the noise coming through the radio and all the commentators' views and non-views. I could turn it off, but I don't. Thursday morning, just passed, one man was set on getting to work, but he did not get to work. Somehow his motorbike became entangled with a van. And no matter whose mismanagement it was or whose misjudgment it was, that man was seriously injured, I could see. No doubt he had taken every precaution to protect himself. But in spite of every protection, our protections can fail us. And God and religion, if we ever did have any contact with it, fails us. So we send soldiers into raging battlefields with a prayer. I'm always intrigued that we give them a prayer, that God will protect them from the hand grenades of the enemy. And whilst we're praying that prayer, the enemy is equally praying a prayer for their soldiers to be effective with their hand grenades in destroying our people. It sounds highly stupid when you come to think of it. Human beings killing fellow human beings and praying about it. For centuries and through the ages, people have prayed for protection. And that's good, I think. I think that's good. It can be a very positive prayer. We're praying for somebody's protection, somebody's welfare. It's an expression, prayer is an expression of hope. It carries an emotion of caring, even compassion and kindness. It can be a significant communal blessing, in fact. It knits us all into a deep fabric of our unconscious culture of cohesion and strength. So I plead with you, don't give up on praying for protection, for their protection. In a world of unpredictable hazards, it is a highly caring and rational thing to do. in spite of what people might say, it's stupid. It's a rational thing to do, that we express our caring via the words of a prayer that we can use. You might not think it does any good, but it unites us. It unites us with that goodness somewhere there in the undercarriages of our humanity. It unites us with that goodness that somehow can make us better humans. Your Bible at different places takes sides. It says if God is on your side, that's better. You'll win. If God is not on your side, then you're likely to get killed. Of course, there's this other prayer often found in the Psalms, and indeed that's why I rewrote many of the Psalms to remove some of those things that I think were alien to what a good, positive religion can do for us. I removed the violence and the injunctions that God telling people to go out and do violence, kill men, women, and children. You might have seen in the church paper of the Uniting Church that someone was criticizing me because I said that Moses is recorded in Scripture as being a mass murderer. They seem to object to the term. It simply meant that they'd not read their Bibles. Well, by the way, the letter was highly geared to ensuring that I should go back and read my Bible, but I retort, obviously they hadn't read theirs, because again and again, Moses said to those people, get out there and kill a lot of them. Every man, woman, and child, destroy them. And they did. What do you call that? Genocide? Mass murder? Call it what you like. A lot of people, thousands of people, were killed. So, whatever you make of that, we've got to say, wait a minute. We all need some protection from that. So you might think, well, praying to a God that endorses that. No, come on. Lift ourselves out of that negative religion. Lift ourselves out of that destructive religion. And place yourself in the stream of what a good religion ought to be about, helping us all to be better humans. So pray the prayer that lifts us into the goodness that makes us better human beings. So, we have a choice of prayer of protection or a prayer of destruction. Or a third possibility. A third possibility is to step over that dichotomy and pray that prayer that will make us better human beings. God, help us to be better human beings and protect us from all that is dreadful. Surely that's a good prayer. That's a good hope. The reality is we need protection. We do need it. From physical harm, from injury, from illness, disease. And our task is to work for that objective. The reality is we need protection from our fellow human beings, from their loving and their hating, from their hurtful and unpredictable behavior, from their anger and their floods of anxiety. And our task is to work towards that objective. The reality is we need protection from ourselves. I said earlier, we need protection from our impulsive behavior, from our hurtful stupidities, from our inner conflicts. And our task is to work towards that objective of finding that protection. The reality is we need protection from the way our minds, our very own minds, can keep us in the dark. Our minds can visit distress on our own bodies. Our minds can leave us in a tangled mess. Our task is to work towards the objective of protection. Protection, protection, protection. And this is our prayer. That is our hope. So we need to learn how to build, I think we need to learn how to build hope into our lives so that hope will be more than a word, but it will express tangible behavior. On our roads, we say, we hope that you will get there safely. Of course we hope that. But the hope needs to be translated into learning how to avoid danger, learning how to be protective of each other. We say we hope we will have good relationships. Of course we hope we'll have good relationships. When people get married, we say we hope they'll have a happy marriage. But that word hope is ridiculous if it's just left hanging out there, because it won't work. The hope needs to be translated into learning how to avoid conflict, or how to lessen conflict, or how to lessen the aftermath of conflict. We say we hope your difficulties will soon be over. Of course we do. But that hope needs to be translated into behaviour of recognizing how to close off, to move away from the zone where it's all happening, how to let things be, how to protect yourself from other people and from your own angry states. I once heard a radio broadcast of Mrs. Margaret Thatcher when she was Prime Minister of Great Britain. In the broadcast, which shouldn't have been a broadcast, she was rehearsing. The microphone had been left open, and the people from the radio station said somewhat unkindly, let it be broadcast what she was saying, and left it open to her practicing saying, enough is enough. And she'd say, no, that's not right. Enough is enough. No, say it differently. So she said it many times. Enough is enough. Well, what's it matter? It all added up to saying, that's it. Learn when you need to say, this argument is over. This stress is finished. This difficulty, let's close it off. Let's leave it. Leave it there. And what do we say? Move on. Several professional journals have carried articles on protective factors for children. We need to study them, not only for their protection from predatory adults, but for protection involved in preparing these children for adulthood itself, for the kind of society that they live in and will live in. So in fact, adults too, not only the children, need to prepare for the stresses as they pass through different phases of life. The stresses will be different at different phases of life. We need to prepare for the major losses of life. We need to strengthen the soothers we need. Yes, the softeners and the soothers. Our protections embrace such things. If only we knew it, how to get the right soother, how to get the right softener that will protect us against the harshness of the stresses and protect us from developing too much in ourselves, harshness, cynicism, and anger. All right, that was point 2. Point 3, we need self-protection. In our protections from the stresses of life, the demands and stresses of people, if our protections are diminished, lost, we then need to protect ourselves from ourselves. Our unreliable coping skills. We don't have the skills to cope. We are in danger of our own inadequacy. Our unreliable sense of self-confidence. Our self-confidence blows out on us. Our unreliable capacities to reposition ourselves in relation to the hazards and the strengths, so that we can strengthen the strengths and lessen the power of the hazards. And that will include developing the capacities to recognize the signals in other people's behavior as to when they're being dangerous to us, as to when they're being unreliable, as to when they can no longer be trusted. We need to be more sensitive, more alert to those signals, because that's part of our protection. Strengthening the self, strengthening our skills, strengthening our capacities, strengthening self-protection. And then, what more? Protection keeps our vitality and our resilience alive. As you know, I was going to be speaking about resilience. next week, but I've changed that. But resilience is an important feature. How do we ensure that our protections work for us in that resilient way? When we feel that our protections are collapsing and we are very vulnerable, we may respond by being angry and aggressive, out of control, those well-learned behaviours, those habits from way in the past. But what is being challenged? What is being challenged is our low level of self-control, our low level of self-management. The social context is offering no room to explore alternative responses. So we give up on alternatives, on our own environment. Or it is that our personality and our responsivity have lost their vitality and their versatility. Protection capacities are about building walls, of course, walls for our protection. But protection also involves developing those interests and skills of self-control, growth experiences, enhancing experiences, enjoyable experiences that really contribute to the person we are. The important thing is this: everyone needs to be aware of their protective strengths. We need to believe that we have that capacity to invoke those strengths in ourselves and in our social and in our existential context. So we need to practice and learn how to convert our words of hope into tangible behaviour. We need to ensure that our protections involve being prepared, rehearsing effective life experiences, strengthening ourselves against vulnerabilities and the anxieties that are associated with them. We need protection involving self-strengths, self-beliefs, believing we can do this, believing that that belief is valid and is testable, self-skills and self-enjoyment. We need protection, the protection that involves developing a spread of interests and activities and enjoyments outside the immediate context. So here it is. What does religion do for us? The view of religion, I believe, in relation to the hazards of life, the view of religion, a good religion, a workable religion, is this. The hazard, number one, the hazards and the risks and the loss of protection will occur. Our protections that we thought would be in place will fail us. That's number one. That's the reality. And our religion admits that, accepts that, recognizes that. Number two, religion does not promise immunity. It directs us to the ways of coping, to the places of discovering strength, to the tasks that reduce our vulnerability, and to the ways of being better humans. Doesn't promise immunity. It directs us to the ways of coping. Number three, a sensible, effective religion repeatedly reminds us that human beings will continue to tangle in conflict. But as they convert hope into practical tasks, they will act to augment those things that will lift them out of their conflict to consider harmony, from recurring mass destruction to the goal of universal reduction of anxiety, more towards, if you like, progressive rational protection. Progressive rational protection. Religion, fourthly. So number one, it says, yes, we will have our risks and hazards. Number two, it does not promise immunity, but it directs us to ways of coping, to the principles and beliefs of coping. Number three, it repeatedly reminds us that human beings will tangle in conflict, but they need to convert their hope of getting beyond it, convert that hope into real action. And number 4, religion encourages us to continue to pray, that we will all be united with that goodness in the here and now that makes us better humans. It's a good prayer.